Hello everyone. You are on the channel Who Created It and How. Today we're going on an incredible journey back in time, about 12,000 years ago, to a world you might not even recognize. A world without cities, without streets, without skyscrapers. A world where humanity was on the brink of its greatest invention yet, the city. So how did we go from small, wandering tribes to bustling metropolises? What was the very first city, and what made it so special? Let's find out. For most of human history, we were nomads, hunter-gatherers constantly on the move, following the seasons and the herds. Life was about survival, finding enough food for the day and shelter for the night. Imagine your entire world fitting into what you could carry. But then, something revolutionary happened. We call it the Neolithic Revolution. Around 10,000 BC, in a region known as the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East, people started to figure out something amazing: agriculture. They learned to plant seeds, cultivate crops like wheat and barley, and domesticate animals like sheep and goats. This was a game changer. For the first time, humans didn't have to move to find food. Food could come to them. They could produce a surplus, more than they needed for just one day. This surplus was the seed from which cities would grow. With a stable food source, people could finally settle down in one place. Small villages began to form. These weren't cities yet, but they were the first step. They were communities of a few hundred people, living in simple mud brick houses, farming the land together. Life was becoming more stable, more predictable, but as these villages grew, new challenges and opportunities arose. A surplus of food meant not everyone had to be a farmer. This led to specialization. Some people could become artisans, creating pottery to store grain and water. Others became builders, developing new techniques to construct stronger, more permanent homes. Some might have become priests or leaders, organizing the community and managing the surplus. This division of labor is a key ingredient for a city. A city isn't just a large collection of people. It's a complex system where different people do different jobs, all relying on each other. So where do we find the first true city? Many archaeologists point to a place in southern Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, called Eridu. Around 5400 BC, Eridu was more than just a large village. It had a monumental temple at its center, dedicated to the god Enki. This temple wasn't just a place of worship, it was the economic and administrative heart of the community. It's where the surplus grain was stored, managed by priests who acted as the city's first bureaucrats. The existence of such a large public building, built by the collective effort of the community for a common purpose, signals a new level of social organization. This is what separates a city from a village. Eridu had a social hierarchy, specialized labor, and a central authority. It was the blueprint. Following Eridu's lead, other cities began to sprout up across Mesopotamia, like Uruk, Ur, and Nippur. Uruk, in particular, became a true metropolis. By 3200 BC, it may have had a population of 50,000 people. To put that in perspective, that was the largest concentration of people the world had ever seen. Uruk was a hive of activity. It had massive defensive walls, grand temples called ziggurats that towered over the landscape, and distinct residential and commercial districts. Living in a city like Uruk was a completely new human experience. For the first time, you were surrounded by thousands of strangers. You had to follow laws, pay taxes in the form of grain or labor, and trust in a system of governance. But the benefits were huge. There was greater security from raids, more economic opportunities, and a vibrant cultural life. It was in cities like Uruk that another world-changing invention appeared: writing. The Sumerians developed cuneiform script initially to keep track of goods, a direct result of the complex economy of the city. Writing allowed for recorded history, literature, and complex laws. The city wasn't just a place to live, it was an engine of innovation. But how was this all organized? The invention of the city required the invention of new social structures. At the top were the priest kings, who held both religious and political power. Below them were scribes, administrators, soldiers, merchants, artisans, and at the very bottom, the farmers who still formed the backbone of the economy, living in the surrounding countryside and bringing their produce into the city. This complex social pyramid was necessary to keep the city running. Of course, the idea of the city wasn't limited to Mesopotamia. Around the same time, or shortly after, other urban centers began to emerge independently around the world. In the Nile Valley, cities like Memphis and Thebes became the centers of Egyptian civilization. In the Indus Valley, cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa displayed incredible urban planning, with grid-like streets and sophisticated sanitation systems. In China, cities emerged along the Yellow River, and in the Americas, centers like Corral in Peru showed signs of early urbanism. Each civilization developed its own unique style of city, but they all shared those core characteristics: a large, dense population, specialization of labor, central authority, and monumental architecture. However, life in these first cities wasn't a utopia. Close quarters meant diseases could spread rapidly. Social inequality was often stark. Cities were also magnets for conflict, as they competed with each other for resources like water and land. The history of early cities is filled with stories of warfare and conquest. Building walls wasn't just for show, it was a necessity for survival. So what can we learn from this incredible story? The birth of the first city wasn't a single event, but a long, complex process that unfolded over thousands of years. It was driven by a revolutionary idea: agriculture. It was built on the foundations of surplus food and the specialization of labor. And it fundamentally reshaped human society, paving the way for everything that followed: empires, trade networks, science, art, and the modern world we live in today. Every time you walk down a busy street, look up at a tall building, or go to a market, you're experiencing the legacy of those first urban pioneers in places like Eridu and Uruk. They took a massive leap of faith, trading the freedom of the nomadic life for the challenges and opportunities of the city. They created a new way of being human, and we've been living in their world ever since. Thanks for joining us on this journey back to the dawn of civilization. What do you think was the most important invention for the creation of cities? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more explorations into who created it and how. See you next time.